All right. Welcome to this week's episode of Talkin Folk. This is Nick, and I'm here with our co-host, Ryan. How you doing, Ryan?
What's up? What's up, guys? Glad to be here.
Yeah, we just got off a really fun interview with Logan Ledger. He was awesome. Like, really let us get into it with some of his songs.
Yeah, I'm not sugarcoating it. He gave a great interview. We had a lot of fun with him, and looking forward to having you guys listen to it.
Yeah, if you haven't listened, we've already done an episode on Logan Ledger ourselves, Ryan and I, in May of last year, episode 77 of Talkin Folk. So if you want to do a little bit of pre-work before you get into the interview, please feel free, or you can go check it out after. But really looking forward to bringing you this interview today. So here we go. All right. Thanks for joining this week's episode of Talkin Folk. This is Nick. I'm here with Ryan, my co-host. And today we are joined by Logan Ledger. Logan, thanks for joining us on the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing better now that I'm here with you guys.
Awesome. Well, the pleasure is ours, right? Right, Ryan?
You didn't ask me how I'm doing.
Well, nobody really cares about you anymore. Now, when we get a guest on, it's like, oh, Nick and Ryan, whatever.
No, I'm doing well. Nicest day of the year so far, so pretty pumped about that. And just thrilled to have Logan on the show here. Genuinely a top 3 album that I've listened to over the past year. So really excited to get into it with him.
Oh, damn. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, Logan, you had self-titled LP album come out last year. As we both said, we love that. We were talking about it before we kicked off the show. Just one of our actual top episodes that we've had in terms of Talkin Folk. People really liked it. What we had to say about it, but also more importantly, love the music.
Well, man, I appreciate you guys doing, covering it and getting, the word out there, because the album hit at probably the worst time I could have, anyone could have imagined.
Absolutely.
And I don't know how anyone heard it, really.
Yeah.
But,
so that wasn't by design?
Grateful that people did. No, well,
Definitely not.
The rollout could have been a little smoother.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I imagine that's not a leading up into an album like that, right? You're not saying I'm going to release this next week kind of thing. You've got that planned out, and obviously, who could have seen, COVID rolling around? And that was released in April, right, of last year. So
yeah, which
right.
is almost a year, which is kind of crazy.
Wild. So why don't you talk to us? One of the things that we didn't know, because we can't put ourselves in your head, when we're covering an album or talking about somebody else's work. Talk a little bit about your sound. You've got like a modern twist on a classic sound, right? And I'm sure that you've pulled from maybe some different inspirations or whatnot. But why don't you just bring us through, like, how did you start singing like that? Writing music that almost feels like you're taking a step back 50 years with a little bit of maybe surf rock on top of it and some other elements.
Well, I think my style really is just a hodgepodge of things that I like, on some level. It's hard for me to define it more than that. I mean, I grew up basically loving old music. So when I was a kid, my grandmother introduced me to Elvis and Roy Orbison and the Platters and, all sorts of old, great 50s music. And I was really drawn to that. I was really drawn to crooning, and I love Sinatra. I just loved that kind of stuff. And then when I was a little bit older, maybe 12 years old, I heard bluegrass music, and then I got really into playing that and learned how to play the banjo. And when I was a teenager, I was mainly into bluegrass. That's kind of how I cut my teeth, or whatever you'd say.
I think that's right. We'll go with that.
So when I was, that's kind of how I learned how to play music, was through bluegrass. So I think, that was
the first band you hopped in after college as well, right? It was more
bluegrass. I was in a bluegrass band right after I got back from school. I was in this band called Windy Hill, and they're still a band. They're they're in San Francisco, or they all live in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Nice.
And we used to play at this place called Amnesia, which is a bar that I don't even think exists anymore in the Mission District in San Francisco. And I'm still friends with all those guys. But I was only in the band for a little bit, and then I moved to Nashville. Well, first I had a couple other weird adventures, but then I moved to Nashville.
So can we expect a Bluegrass Logan Ledger album at some point in your career, you think?
I've actually hinted at that before. I don't think anytime soon, but it is something that I would like to do, actually. And I have very specific ideas about how I would do it, who I'd do it with, where I would do it. I actually have thought about it quite a lot.
It reminds me a little bit of what we're going to try and keep this Logan Ledger focus, but it reminds me a little bit of what Sturgill just did, releasing his two bluegrass albums.
Totally. Like I don't think I would do my material bluegrass style. Maybe like a couple. I think it would be probably covers. The way I've conceptualized it in my head. Though I throw in maybe some original music, but I don't know. There's a couple. I don't know. There are just certain things in bluegrass that I'd like to highlight in on the record, and I don't really know if I'm ready to fully like talk about it or even what it is. But I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling now.
Oh, well, that's all right. We're happy to get a little scoop there. You saved enough of it for when you actually do your big announcement when you do a bluegrass album
in several years from now.
Yeah, there you go. So I want to just talk a little bit. You touched on it, and I know we've got some questions around your influences and inspiration, but you kind of touched on it a little bit. But so you moved to Nashville, and when was that? 5 or 6 years ago, or longer than that at this point?
Probably a little longer than that at this point. It was the very end of 2013. So yeah.
And were you drawn to
7 years?
Were you like drawn to the I need to go play in Nashville or record at some of these places that I had heard growing up and all that?
Yes, I was sort of drawn to it in a romantic kind of way. I also had friends that were living in Nashville that I could stay with, so it seemed just like a good. And I had nothing going on, in California, right. So I just went. But yeah, I was definitely drawn to it in this kind of romantic, like Nashville is the place where dreams are made, kind of bullshit, way or whatever.
well, speaking of that, I mean, you kind of hit that fairy tale dream to a degree. I mean, unless I'm mistaken, I believe you recorded a quick demo and a friend passed it to a friend who passed it to a friend who passed it to T-Bone Burnett.
That's true. It is pretty crazy. I mean, that is one of the more magical things that I've ever gone through as a person. And I think it's still pretty crazy. That whole experience, that whole year of my life was just a very weird, surreal moment in time.
Can you tell that story for those who don't know that story or listening in?
Yeah. So, I've been living in Nashville for a couple of years, and I have this friend named Mark Thornton, who's a guitar player, does some recording at his house. And I was over at his house one day, and we were just testing some new equipment that he had gotten in, like a new microphone or something. And I played some songs and I don't know what we were doing, actually. I don't know. We didn't really have any plans for what we were doing. I think I was just playing around. But a couple weeks went by, and he called me and told me that his friend, this great bass player named Dennis Crouch, had stopped by, and they turned the songs I'd made I'd recorded into sort of real sounding demos. And they were really cool sounding. I was like, oh man, thanks, Mark. I can use this for something. I don't know. And then another few days or something went by, and I get a call that Dennis Crouch, the bass player that I hadn't met yet, but who had played on those records, had sent the recordings to T-Bone Burnett, and T-Bone wanted to produce an album. So it's like went from 0 to 10 very, things escalated very quickly. It was pretty crazy. And then I went and met Dennis the first time, and within like 48-hour period, I was in Los Angeles, and I was talking to T-Bone, and that was almost 5 years ago now.
Wow.
Hopping on that flight to LAX, are you like pinching yourself? Like, is this real? Like, I'm about to walk into the studio with T-Bone Burnett and shake his hand and hopefully start cutting an album?
Yeah, man, it was pretty crazy. I was very excited. I wrote a song on the plane, which I think I've only done like twice. I didn't ever do anything with that song, but I was very excited. Had all this energy. Went out there, we made some demos, and
That's awesome.
It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. What was his process like with you? Never working together, right? Before that, so you walk in and like, how does that work?
Well,
he doesn't know how to work with you. You don't know how to work with him. It's like dating, right? For the first time, it's
Yeah.
dating somebody new.
Well, T-Bone and I had a long, I don't know what you'd call it, period of post or pre-production. So there were between when I met him and when we cut the record, we'd already known each other for over 2 years. And during that time, I'd become very close to the musicians that ended up playing on the record, who were also the musicians that work with T-Bone, Dennis Crouch and Jay Bellerose and this cat named Russ Paul. And so I played shows with these guys. So we worked out arrangements, and by the time we got into the studio, everything had kind of already, to some extent, been produced in a way. It was like a long period of whittling down what the album was going to sound like and what it was going to be. So by the time we got into the studio, really, I think there was like 5 days of tracking. Almost all of it was live. There's, very little actual recording that went into that, making that record. T-Bone played on most of it. We did that record very quickly. And that's what I think T-Bone likes to work in kind of like a live, off the hat, not overly produced, kind of just vibe town way. That's kind of T-Bone's thing. But T-Bone took a very T-Bone is still, but he was very involved in the whole process of me getting into because I really wasn't hustling before that happened. I wasn't like going up to record label executives, or I don't even know, I wouldn't even know how to have done that, or like given my I never even had a business card, like it wasn't. So I mean, I had no idea how to even be an artist or whatever, So it's been a journey for me, and I think before the pandemic, I started playing a lot of shows as a solo act. At this point, I probably played like 70 solo shows or something. I don't even know, which is not that many really. But for me, where I hadn't really done that before, I always played in a band and kind of been able to hide, and it really forced me to really work on aspects of my musicianship and my stage presence and all that kind of stuff that I probably had a deficit in. But T-Bone helped me. He was, I don't know what to say other than that he was, he's been a mentor.
No, it's
really
great.
So
It's great. It's great.
Not a bad mentor to have.
No, he's a very interesting human.
Were those shows primarily in the Nashville area, LA, all around?
They were all in Nashville. So I didn't actually, no, I did a little bit of touring in end of 2017. That's kind of when I started, but I really didn't hit the road until 2018. And then I started playing different cities. But yeah, but even in 2018, I did a lot of in-town shows, which I haven't really done since. There were showcases because we were still trying to, wrangle a record label or, booking agents. So there were shows that suits would come to. It's kind of Nashville, schmooze kind of vibe, but you need to do, that's part of it. This is what it is. But, met a lot of good people in the end, and I'm really happy where we wound up, and it's a good team.
As the plan post, we're really at the point where now we can start thinking about, for the first time in a year, it's been a long year, but we could think about now going forward, right? Vaccinations are out there, people starting to be able to play shows, hopefully light at the end of the tunnel kind of moment. Are you planning to tour the album, or, what does that look like in at least a semi return to normal world that we move to next?
I'm not really, this album, I've kind of just made peace with the fact that it's probably not gonna ever get its, due in a way. I'm ready to I'm gonna put out another record probably. My plan is to record it towards the end of this year and then put it out early next year. I don't know. This is completely.
Now,
There's no plan or no album slated or anything. But I want to put out another album. That's kind of where my head's at right now. Like just writing and making new stuff. But yeah, as soon as touring's back, I'm gonna get out there. As soon as I can, like really do it. And hit the road.
I'm sure that hurt you, but that response from you right there just kind of hurt my soul a little bit. Like this album deserved, I feel like, so much more than where it actually ended up, and that's killer to me. That's
I'll still play the songs, and I don't mean it like that. I'm proud of what we did, and I love the record, and but I'm gonna come back in with a bang, I think.
Good.
All right, we like to hear that. Now, you hoping to open up, go on your own tour and play some smaller gigs, or open up for somebody? What do you foresee happening there?
Probably the goal is probably to open for people. I had a lot of stuff booked where I was opening for people that ended up getting canceled, and some of that stuff will probably work out, but other stuff probably isn't going to anymore. It's been a year, but I foresee that I will probably be opening for various acts and doing scattered headlining shows at festivals and things. Not headlining, whatever, festival gigs.
Anyone you can give us a little hint on in terms of opening for?
Well, the only one that I even know for a fact that it is happening is I already was slated to do it. It was opening for the Secret Sisters.
Nice.
And I think now those dates are next year, or maybe towards the end of this year. Forget, but that is going to happen. But yeah, it's a ways.
Yeah, they're great.
They're
a lot of fun.
They're super awesome.
That's cool.
They'll be great, and it's a great. I think it's a good fit.
Raindrops shine like diamonds on my window. Moonlight spills like silver across the floor. Ships pass in the night.
We have a question for you, and so we did the Talkin Folk show. We talked about 3 or 4 of your songs that we really liked from the album. I don't know. I'm gonna speak for myself on this one, Ryan. But my favorite from your album was "The Lights of San Francisco." I just absolutely love that song. I listen to it frequently. It's on a few of my playlists that it ends up on.
Well, I wrote that with Steve Earle.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's a pretty funny story.
So what's the story, right? So like we speculated around Alcatraz and all these things, but what's the story that you have in your head when you listen to that or sing that song?
Well, yeah, it's a ghost story. It's from the perspective of a dead man. When I was writing it, I had the title for a long time, and I actually wrote several songs called "The Lights of San Francisco" that all were shit and never came to anything. And I had gotten hooked up with Steve via T-Bone. Him and T-Bone are friends. And, it was pretty cool. I went down and hung out with Steve before his show in Chattanooga, I think. Yeah, I think it was in Chattanooga. Anyway, we, he's like, got any titles or ideas or anything? And I said, I got this idea called "The Lights of San Francisco." And at the time, I kind of envisioned it not, I did want it to be this kind of like a prison, like a man who's like a guy looking at the lights of San Francisco locked up, the lights for this freedom. But I didn't, and Steve was the guy who said, why don't we make him dead? Why don't we turn this into a ghost story, which made it, which gave it another layer of intrigue. And it's just, it's not just a cliched prison song.
That's really cool.
I'm really
That's really
proud
cool.
of
Yeah.
that song, and very honored that he wrote it with me.
I'm
Very
also happy that we were right on the ghost story the first time, because otherwise we'd have to go back and delete that episode from our archive now that we know the real story.
No, you're right.
Me by the riverside, let the mermaids flirt with me. Let the mermaids flirt with me.
That's cool.
Now I had one other quick one while we're on the album. You led the album off with "Let the Mermaids Flirt with Me," and that's a little bit of, it's not, what's the word I'm looking for, Nick? It's not like a cover, but it's a hat tip.
Yeah, I ripped the title.
Right. Was there?
No, it's kind of a brave move. I wouldn't have done it these days, But I wrote that song when I was like 22 years old.
Huh.
And in a sense, it's kind of, I feel like it's kind of, sorry, I cut you off there.
No, because was there any influence from Mississippi John Hurt, who had the original title, when you made the sound of the song?
Other than the idea, no, not really. I mean, it's more like in a certain vague kind of ragtimey. But I was thinking more Jimmy Rogers, really, which which I guess "Let the Mermaids Flirt with Me" was written to the tune of a Jimmy Rogers song. So yeah, Mississippi John is definitely in there. But I guess what I'm trying to say is it's sort of like the essence of Mississippi John was what I was trying to honor there in some way. So but write a completely different song, but kind of in the same sort of ragtimey world, sort of, but take it in more of a nocturnal kind of introspective, sort of weirder direction. But nowadays I probably wouldn't do that. It's sort of like, it was kind of like one of these sort of things only like a kid would do, like take a title that's already a song, and because you can do that. People, you can't copyright a title or an idea, but no one does. It's not. It would be almost now I would think it was like disrespectful or something. But I think in a way it was like one of the more respectful things. It kind of honors my whole musical upbringing and who I was influenced by. Because Mississippi John Hurt and Doc Watson were the two people that got me into playing guitar music.
Wow.
Really, because when I started playing guitar, let's go back even before I was playing bluegrass. My very first guitar teacher, he had me playing classical guitar, and I was getting really into doing that, and then I went to this young classical guitar players symposium in San Francisco, and with my dad, and I remember thinking, this is the most boring thing I've ever witnessed in my life. Like nowadays, maybe I'd enjoy it now, I don't know, but it was just not cool. It's not happening.
Yeah.
So I kind of changed gear, and I was starting to get into folk music, and I don't know where I heard it or how, but I heard Mississippi John Hurt, and I heard Doc Watson, and sort of folk finger picking became my entry point into like really getting into music. And then I heard the banjo, and then bluegrass became the obsession and all that. But Mississippi John Hurt is like a foundational influence for me, even though I don't know if you could even like hear it other than maybe this general sort of ragtimey world that I sometimes live in. But that guy's music is what a special place it has in my heart.
That's awesome.
Anyway, I just totally rambled there.
No, it's awesome. It makes sense that that's the first song on the album, in my mind. Right?
Yeah, it had to be.
That's a tone setter.
Had to be.
Yeah.
I think. Because that's also the song that T-Bone first heard. That was the song that convinced him that this is a thing that he wanted to do. It was that song. I think he heard like an early demo of Starlight, but he really liked "Let the Mermaids Flirt with Me," and that's the one that, in a sense, was like sort of the mission statement behind the album. Kind of sets the tone. But I have to give credit where credit is due. I mean, I don't actually think Mississippi John Hurt wrote the lyrics to that song. He came up with the melody. There was another cat who was like his lawyer or or like probably some like crooked label executive, but also like wrote pretty good songs. And I think the story is that that's the guy who actually wrote the lyrics. And John Hurt said it to waiting for this melody of Waiting for a Train, which is this Jimmy Rogers song,
Yeah.
And really made it his and everything. But it was those two guys. So I have to give credit where credit is due. That's the origin of that title. And I've never shied away from letting people know that that's what it's referencing. And that's, it's very specific. And it's not a hidden, it's a reference to Mississippi, John Hurt.
I just love the sound, top to bottom. Like, I think, what's the big Spotify playlist we listen to, Nick?
Indigo. I think you made it on Indigo for a while, which is that's honestly probably how we found you.
That's
cool.
I know that's where I found it.
I'm really grateful that Spotify has been putting it on these playlists, or all, my songs on these playlists. People do hear the songs that way. It's like, I think the Spotify playlists and Sturgill Simpson are like the two ways that people heard my record this year,
Yeah. I specifically remember listening to Indigo and I think I was doing dishes or something in the kitchen where I listen to a lot of music, and your sound just stood apart from the various other artists on that playlist. And I was like, well, who the heck is this guy? We got to dive deeper into this. And lo and behold, here we are.
Oh man. Well, I'm glad that you dug what you heard. It's like, I'm such a weirdo and I don't really have any notion of how popular any of the stuff I'm doing will be, or, it's just kind of amazing to me that I'm even here. I'm just glad that I have that what I'm doing, at least some people are into.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, you've got a really interesting sound, right? It's almost like I know you said you ripped off the title of Mermaids Flirt with Me, but your sound isn't a ripoff by any means, right? It's almost trying to capture some of the essence. I read an article that was capturing some of the essence of Sun Records, of that kind of era of music, but making it your own. So I think when people hear it, they say, what is this? I've never heard this type of twist on that type of sound before. When you combine things like surf, the kind of this Mermaids Flirt with Me has kind of like a surf rock element to it, if you will. And, there's just some depth to these songs, which isn't common right now.
Thank you. And thank you. I really appreciate your compliment that it's like it references things that have happened, but it's unique and new, because that's what I've tried to do that. That's like, that's what I want to do, is to make music that draws upon these things, but is an honest kind of hybridization of it. And it is kind of my own thing. That's what I'm trying to do. I don't like when I see really contrived kind of just retro regurgitations. That's not what I've ever wanted to. And some, I don't want to take away from people that study the craft of old art forms and music, and that's part of what I do too. For me personally, I feel like I need to combine a lot of different things that I've loved, over the course of my life. It's just, I think that's how people in 2021 create new things. It's just mixing stuff. I don't know. But,
it's that combination, right? So for your work, there hasn't necessarily been too much that I've heard that's combined some of the elements of the music, especially the musical side, right? Your writing and stuff is unique to you, but let me pull in some of this Jimmy Rogers-esque inspired sound, or some of these older sounds. I want to have a song that sounds maybe like I'm a crooner, like there's just these different things that you've pulled in that they're tastefully done together, and they fit the songs when the mood is right for them. So kudos on that. That's great. So I think we've got a bit of a rundown of what's going on with you, Logan. Do you want to talk about, maybe what's next? You mentioned really briefly you're thinking about how you're going to write another album. What can we expect this coming year? Are you thinking about, I've seen a lot of people do the, hey, let me release a single here and there. Is that your style? Or are you going to wait to do like kind of a full album so people can digest it?
I don't know. I mean, I can't really even say at the moment because I haven't really. I'm sure the record label has a certain timeline, and I don't even know what. There's so many variables and things that would need to happen before I don't really know how I can answer that question right now and just not let everybody down. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, there's no pressure. There's no pressure to
yeah.
We'll wait for when it's right.
It's just this year is going to be another, who knows, I'm sure it's going to be a lot better than last year, but I can't really promise or say anything about what will unfold.
Are you hoping to work with T-Bone again in the future?
Oh yeah, I'll always work with T-Bone in some, I hope so anyway, not necessarily for every record I ever do, but okay. I mean? Like I always, and I'm working some stuff with him right now for some of his projects.
All right. So what we're going to do, the last part of the show here, is we're going to do a little Nashville inspired speed round. Both Ryan and I have been there a couple times. Logan, you've moved there about at least 5 or 6 years ago now at this point. Like you said, we want to go through what are some of your favorite things. So Ryan, do you want to kick us off in the speed round?
Yeah, I'll kick us off. All right. Some of these were contributed from listeners and other coworkers at John Boy Media. So we got best local bar, Rippy's or Tin Roof.
Oh man, probably neither. I don't know. Never been. That's not my scene. I don't know.
Okay.
What's your favorite local bar?
The Tin Roof. I don't know. D's is a cool bar. Let's put D's out there. Let's shout out to D's. D's is a cool bar in Madison, Tennessee, and they have really good live music. And if you want to see like the real deal stuff that's going on in Nashville as far as songwriters and musicians and stuff, go to D's Lounge.
Okay, that's cool. What's your favorite spot you've played at?
In Nashville?
Yeah.
I'm sure I can answer that. What's I played everywhere in Nashville, but I'm trying to think of the best sound. I don't know. Actually, best crowd. The best place I played in Nashville is this little trailer called Santa's Pub. You ever heard of Santa's Pub? It's a triple wide trailer that's like smoking, or at least it used to be. And all it tells is beer, and it's just like a total dive. It's got Christmas lights on it and everything. And I used to on Sundays they'd have a honky tonk night, sort of a rotating band and front people, and I would do it like every other month or something, and that was fun. I mean, it's like a true you can't get that experience anywhere else. That is Nashville. And I'm sure it will start up again. I haven't been in a couple years, but I'm sure it'll start up again as soon as pandemic is over. But yeah, you wouldn't want to be in that room with any sort of COVID action going on. I mean, shit. Yeah.
Right,
I hope that kind of stuff comes back.
Couple more quick ones. Hattie B's Hot Chicken or Franklin Barbecue?
I've never had Franklin Barbecue. I do think Hattie B's is good though. I think they make a good chicken.
Would you rather go to a Predators or a Titans game?
Probably Predators game.
Okay. And then we got a couple music ones to maybe have you ever been to a show at the Ryman?
Yes. Several.
Who'd you see?
I've seen a bunch of people.
Who was your favorite?
They've all been good. I don't know.
I was going to try and trap you there.
I saw one of the cool ones I saw Margot Price had like this 4-night residency. It was like packed to the gills and all these special guests and everything. That was fun. That was a fun night. That was pretty cool.
Awesome.
Do you have a dream collab in mind for who you'd like to play with at the Ryman?
Willie Nelson. It's just my favorite. It's my dream collab, period.
Okay.
All things.
Well, we love Willie. We can end on that note. I don't think anybody could possibly disagree with that. That's great.
I'm sorry if I didn't answer the questions good, or I hope
There's no right or wrong answers. It's all your perspective, man. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Logan. It's great talking to you. Obviously, we'd love to hear. There's no pressure, but we'd love to hear more Logan Ledger. We got an awesome taste last year with your self-titled debut album.
Well, thank you for having me, and I want to. I'd love to come back. When the time is right.
Yeah, please do. Next time you've got some new music to talk about, or just want to catch up, you're more than welcome back on the show. It's great catching up with you. Where can people find you? We know you're on Spotify. Do you have a website that sells any of your merch or your records or anything like that?
Yes, it's called LoganLedgerMusic.com. I think somebody else had Logan Ledger, some dick somewhere, but LoganLedgerMusic.com, and you can also buy it from Rounder's website, I think. So yeah.
Awesome. We'll make sure people know about it when we get the word out about this show. Thanks for coming on, and we'll hopefully catch up with you soon, Logan.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll look for that dream collab with Willie Nelson. If that becomes real someday, you better let us know first, because we're buying the first tickets to go see that.
That is my ultimate dream, is to do something with Willie Nelson's name attached to it.
Yeah, it's amazing. All right, thanks for coming on the show, Logan.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a ton of fun with Logan. So pumped he could come on and join us today. Talk a little bit about his self-titled album, Logan Ledger, which came out last year. If you haven't, go listen to that album. I mean, I'm not kidding. That was a top 3 album for me last year. Just a fantastic sound, really good music. If you like what we're doing here, if you're enjoying it, we always want to hear from you. Hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on Twitter @JohnBoyMusic. We're always looking for feedback there, and the more interaction we get there, it only helps boost our profile so we can keep bringing you fine folks nice interviews like this. All right. Well, for me and for Nick, we'll catch you next time on here on Talkin Folk.
Bye. See you guys.
No way to make it to the other side.